Welcome, I hope you're all doing well. In this guide, I'll go through everything you need to know about Chaos. Make sure you leave a like or even subscribe if this tends to be useful. It will just really help me out, thank you. Now starting off, I think it's extremely important to know what stats you're looking for and what he even does actually overall, as it'll give context and a better understanding of what's happening. The summary is that Chaos is a main DPS who's supposed to stay on field to deal massive damage. The stats you're looking for is crit rate, crit damage, damage attack, and attack percentage. Obviously, these are going to be the stats you'll want to get on the cartridges. Now, the normal attacks, before we go into the cartridges and arcs, we need to know what they do for a better understanding of his skills. Pursuit is where he uses his weapon obviously and performs basic attacks up to 5 consecutive attacks, dealing action and damage. This blows up the crime gauge. Once the gauge is full, hold the basic attack. This action consumes all crime gauge and performs a heavy attack with additional hit. If it's not full, it will not consume the crime gauge and just perform a regular one-hit attack. This is called final verdict. Overturn is when you just press attack when airborne and deals one instance of action damage, and the damage increases with full height. This is the same for every character, so that doesn't really matter. The skill, which is called Doubt Mark, summons a hound to panzer a target. The hound bites the target back and forth twice, dealing action and damage and applying the wall mark up to 2 enemies for 15 seconds. This allows you to deal a great amount of damage on enemies that are affected by one, which is by 20%. Retribution summons the hound to attack nearby enemies. This inflicts 1 onto all enemies within the range, and Chaos enters the Dread Echo state where it continuously fills his crime gauge. Uses to inflict multiple 2-hit heavy attacks. Now onto the arcs. The first arc you want is a signature arc called What's Desired. The reason for this, although you probably don't need to know because it's a signature arc, is that the arc increases the wearer's, or in this case probably Chaos, action damage by 20%, crit damage by 40% for 20 seconds when a redirect skill or ultimate is used. It gives crit rate as a substat, which is up to 24%, so increasing your crit rate and damage is really good, and those are the stats we mentioned earlier. Another recommended arc is Fluff of Ferocity. This arc gives attack as a substat, which is up to 27.5%. Percentage is always better than flat attack, and its effect allows us to get up to 40% crit damage as well, or in more detail, 4% increase for every critical hit, and it stacks up to 10 times in the last 10 seconds. As this arc gives both attack and crit damage, shot stats we need, this arc is good. Another arc, which is A rank, is called A Time Will Come, which has some stats of crit rate up to 20%. The reason this arc is good is because if you have 3 different elements type on the team, you can get permanent 10% attack boost, which will link onto the teams when we get there. After looking through some more arcs, I found that Camilla Society seems to be a good option. It gives crit rate as a substat up to 12%. It can also increase crit damage by up to 60% for 5 seconds when HP is reduced without taking damage. Or in more detail, 12% per stack and can stack up to 5 times, which is an insane amount. After I went through the whole list of condensate arcs, I saw nothing more interesting except the ones with break intensity, but Chaos does not need that. Cartridges, probably one of the easiest to figure out, but anyways, you want 3 Boxic as it gives action damage plus 10% for a 2-piece effect, and for 4-piece, increases crit chance by 14%. If the team is triggering Remora Stain, increases the bonus to 14% for 20 seconds, which will link onto the teams again when we look at them. Now, whenever you're looking at cartridges, you mostly want the element damage bonus such as Lakshana damage plus 10% for Chaos, as this element is Lakshana, but if for some reason you don't want that set, Shadow Creed is a good one as it provides attack. For Street Boxer, they recommend the modules are Type 2 horizontal, Type 3 horizontal, Type L right inverted, and Type Snake horizontal. The stats you want are the stats I mentioned at the start of this guide, prioritizing crit rate and damage, and then damage and attack percentage, with flat attack being last. Onto the teams, a Remora team is Chaos' best team. You would then probably want to make a team with that in mind. A good team is Chaos, Hathor Skia, then Esposito, and then Vardio Hanyu. The reason you want Hathor Skia is because they're, good zombie DPSs, but they can extend Remora's base duration or reapply Remora to extend its duration. Esposito is needed as a second sub DPS, as he or she can easily trigger Remora. However, used to buff the team and can help apply Stain, which can increase reduction of damage, or even Psych. However, if you want more survivability, you can have Vardia, and she redirects damage taken to herself as the passive and can heal herself. The team has the ability to do Remora and Stain. It's exactly what makes 2 Boxer really good for this, as this team also does have 3 different elements. This is the reason you can use airtime with Calm Arc, giving him a permanent increase for 10% attack, defense, and HP. For the skill enhancement, when talking about skills, you firstly want to prioritize normal attack, proving this one increases general output as his rotation heavily involves in him outputting damage by using his normal attacks. Then you want to prioritize the ultimate. Now it is really important as it gives you a lot of massive amounts of damage, but you should prioritize normal attack and the ultimate by the same amount. Now after that you want to prioritize the skill because leveling this up doesn't affect the damage boost from the warrant. And then you have the support skill. That's what you're gonna prioritize last. This will just increase the output of the support skill. Now onto the rotation, always start using Chaos' skill as this will increase its damage output on affected enemies that have warrant. However, if you have a character with full energy, make sure to start off with them, so then Chaos can trigger Remora Stain, then attack enemies to fill up his crown gauge once full, hold his normal attack to consume the gauge, perform a more powerful held attack with an additional hit, as we mentioned earlier, which is called Final Verdict if I remember correctly. Then uses ultimate to have his crown gauge fill up quickly, uses to perform multiple empowered attacks, and remember to use the other characters and apply Remora via Chaos whenever possible. Now for the awakening skills, for the pay to win players or the lucky players out there, I'll quickly go over which to prioritize. First is False Origin, as this will allow you to deal more damage via the ultimate. Second is Piercing Insight. It allows you to fill up the gorge faster. Now I'll prioritize False Origin and Piercing Insight the same amount. So whichever one you get first, you should get the other after. And number 3 is Charge/Sin. It allows you to ignore enemies' defense affected by warrant. Really good to do more damage. Number 4 is Ember Flare. Increases crit damage after the ultimate's cost for a duration. Also really good. I'll prioritize number 3 and 4 the same amount as well. So whichever one you decide to get first, get the other one after that. Number 5 is Void Gaze. Increases the damage output on an enemy with a warrant if they're the only enemy with a warrant applied to them. This is good for bosses. Number 6 is Drowning Tag. Transfers warrant from a defeated enemy that warrant onto a nearby enemy unaffected by warrant. This is good when you're fighting multiple enemies, so you can get Void Gaze or Drowning Tide according to your preference. You'll be fighting bosses more, get Void Gaze. If not, get Drowning Tide first. In my opinion, I will get Drowning Tide first because you'll be mostly fighting enemies that are in multiple amounts. You'll only ever be fighting bosses when you're farming materials or in a quest, but most of the time it will be multiple smaller mobs, so I'll go for number 6. But that is my opinion. You can choose whichever one you want first and then get the other one right after that. This is it for the guide. I hope you all enjoyed and was useful. Any questions, leave it in the comments. I will answer them. I hope you all have a good day. Sleep well. Stay healthy. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.